Andrew in New York, pronouns are he, him, would like to explain modern paganism. Most of the tenets are metaphorical. Well,
Ooh.
Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good. Yeah, just in response, last week you took a call, someone who claimed to worship Thor, and when asked why, of course, his explanation was pretty ham-fisted, and you were understandably befuddled. I'm an atheist. I don't hold to paganism, but some years ago I got sort of reluctantly involved with a group of pagans, and this was 15 years ago. I was just getting into the whole "what do you believe and why" type of conversation. And
hey, Andrew.
The ministers, yes. Yes. Hello.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're not a pagan.
No.
Okay. Don't take this the wrong way. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't see how it can possibly be good for a non-pagan to call in to offer even a better understanding of paganism than a pagan, because anything that person got wrong, they can just say, well, you're not a pagan. Where's what you're pointing to? And anything that you get right or that's confusing, some other pagan. I want to hear from genuine, like, people who hold to those views. It would be like having, an atheist buddy of mine call in and tell us all about Mormonism.
Oh, that's fair enough. Understood. Just wanted to give him my 2 cents. I spent some time toying with the idea, but yeah, I'm not the expert.
Well, I'll give you like 30 seconds or so to say kind of what your thoughts were on the time, but there's really not much we can do with it. I want to engage with somebody who actively believes that.
Fair enough. All right, really quickly, the idea as it was explained to me was that there's no belief that any god or gods that they talk about actually exist, and they're really meant as sort of placeholders to elevate the human experience. So when they talk about this is the goddess of love, there is no goddess of love. It's just a way to celebrate the idea that we can experience that as humans. And in a sense, it was sort of explained to me as an almost spiritual humanism.
I think that's totally interesting, and I find that interesting. And if you were to like send me a poll that said that's what the majority of pagans believed, that's totally cool. But it's frustrating because I've had this conversation with a couple of pagans before, and I feel like they have explicitly said that that's not what they believe, that they do legitimately believe in pagan gods. But I feel like I keep getting so close. People keep like dangling this carrot of what pagans actually believe in front of me, but nobody actually like really just gives me what do you actually believe? Because I mean that's no different than believing in like just the concept of love generally. So I don't know. I appreciate you calling in and explaining to us what you understand, but it's just frustrating because I want to know what pagan people actually believe so I can actually have real conversations with them. But I feel like it's so elusive. I keep getting, dismissals on grounds of how personal it is, or this sort of thing where it's a metaphor for them personally, but not every pagan. So like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with that kind of definition? That's like someone redefining any concept as a god.
Yeah, it'll wind up being, and this is what I'm trying to avoid, and no fault with you at all, Andrew. What you tell me could be completely correct, and it could even represent the majority of pagans or any number of other things. But I run the risk of somebody, in much the same way that many people weren't happy with the last pagan who called in and tried to defend some of this. They're going to be less impressed, and they're going to call like no true Scotsman fallacies, or how could you have somebody on to explain something when that's not what they are? And so I've dealt with this before with Christianity on the show, and that is there are a number of different versions of Christianity. There's as many different versions probably as there are people, and when one Christian calls in and says, here's what I believe, there's a million other Christians out there that are going, that's not what I believe, and I'm a Christian too. And this is why I don't make, or I try not to, I'm usually pretty careful about it. I try not to make grand statements about what Christianity is. I don't get to define Christianity. All I can do is address the religion or the belief of whoever's calling in. So that's why we're always like, what do you believe and why? And do you think somebody else should do it? Otherwise, we'd end up having a show where it would be like, what do you think somebody else believes? and then we get nowhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all I can do is explain to you what was explained to me. But of course, that was just one guy in one church.
Yep. Anyway, I appreciate the effort, Andrew, but I'm going to get on to some other calls.
Certainly. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. If you are a pagan who holds to that label and has, you want to call in and explain what it is that you believe and why, both are important. I'm more interested in the why than the what, but the what we have to discuss. And one of the key things we're always looking for is not just what do you believe and why, but why do you think other people should believe it? What's the value? What's the demonstration of truth? Because if we were to say, hey, I want to believe things if they're true, that could be different from somebody else. Like there are people who I didn't think this was the case, but I'm becoming more and more convinced that in certain areas, they really don't care whether or not it's true. They care about whether or not it's, like I used to ask, if you don't care about the truth, try closing your eyes and walking across, a busy highway. You're going to start caring about the truth of whether or not there's a bus coming. But I think people are maybe putting types of beliefs into boxes. And so for things that functionally deal with physics and reality here, like, are you going to get smushed by a bus? Well, of course they care about that truth. But for other things, maybe they don't care about the truth as much. Maybe it's more about, does it feel good? Which is why we keep hearing about, oh, this is kind of metaphorical. I don't know. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, that's very much been my experience too, that they tend to group things up like this. But I don't know. I find these sort of more flowery things almost kind of annoying, because it feels like I'm being obfuscated from like the reality of the situation, what I'm trying to get to, and knowing that there are some people out there who do believe in like a literal Thor or something is like, okay, that's cool, that's interesting. So like, explain it to me. But it's always just been these sort of vague gestures towards metaphorical concepts and the universe and physics and the cosmos or whatever. But I definitely want someone to call in. If you're in the audience right now and you can explain it to us, please do. I genuinely want to understand.
Well, we do have a couple theists online, and hopefully we'll get into some discussions. Remember, the primary point about this show is for you to call and tell us what you believe and why. And while we generally focus on, the big questions of is there a God or the supernatural, et cetera, there are other things too. And there are things that Arden and I may or may not be correct about. And if we're wrong, I know us both pretty well. We would both like to find out that we're wrong so we can stop being wrong.